So I am Ludwig Fischer again, talking about the larger context and the sociological, psychological point of view of the group that met at Monte Verita. And I ended that last section with reminding myself always, and sometimes other people, that to what extent you rely on external sources and what about the ecological balance? To rely on a memory that is actually based on billions of sense impressions that are based on actual direct sensory experiences of yourself and of your ancestors, as they are also stored, so to speak, within you. The Italian philosopher and poet Carlo Levi stated, "The future has an ancient heart." I believe that the esoteric quests are attempts, successful attempts and very important attempts, to reactivate what is stored in that ancient heart wisdom that we carry with us. The modern mind obviously doesn't like that. But it is more important that we cultivate this kind of memory than ever. And there's a thinking among Jungians that the gods that have been neglected and replaced, that they eventually show up as diseases. So if we don't need that memory anymore, then maybe there's a connection to increasingly more and more people living in very specific accommodations where they have memory care, as it is called. The people at Monte Verita who gathered there, they did remember something, and didn't come from those people who were advocating the latest chemical and technological advances. They had still available to them a heart memory. I knew that the modern mind had lost its way in regard to core assumptions about who we are and what constitutes and creates a meaningful, harmonious life. The mechanistic materialism, the analytical rationalism, the hedonistic individualism, those pillars of the Western worldview were collapsing at the beginning of the 20th century, and the destructive forces which caused the horrors then of the political reality in the following decades in that century, are they still active in the 21st century? Or they're only active in a few, weird people that go on alternative esoteric requests. And are they needed? Yes, they are needed more than ever. There's a threat upon us today that we will forced to live as a kind of fully automated, externally controlled, essentially unlived human experience that will be more there in that cyber land than here. Unless we cultivate that other deeper memory and find and visit those places and study those sources where the deeper wisdom, the deeper memory was lived and is still available to us as a source to draw from. The Montiveritaners, as I call them, they simply moved away from this emerging modern artificial life experience. Where there was a certain kind of isolation that became the conventional way of living. And where people slept in what Henry Miller later on would call the air-conditioned nightmare. That low nature contact way of spending one's time online, this accelerated way of, is it life? Where there is a new distraction every few seconds. Something actually that the French philosopher Paul Virilio called it's actually a frantic stagnation. A kind of modern mindset arrested in an extremely harmful pseudo-hope or expectation to receive all solutions to all problems from an externalized, artificially correlated body of knowledge. Where is that body of knowledge when it comes off the computer? Do you know what it really is? It is actually a gigantic collection of frozen past sensory perception categorized according to the correct outcomes. Decided by whom? Now this is actually the opposite of the creative mind, the creative action, which draws its inspiration, motivation, course of action from an inner trust in the unknown, which reveals itself in genuine human seeking, where mind, heart, soul, and spirit create a presence I have a friend, Philip Shepherd, who gives workshops worldwide about a seminar about a topic. He calls it the embodied presence process, which I think is very valuable, brings people closer to being present. But you know what? When you go today to what used to be a public place, where now people are with their laptop in social media isolation, and when in Rome, being in a cafe, and there was a couple had lunch with each other, and since I had nothing to do actually that afternoon, I was watching during 60 minutes. Either one of them was on the phone for a total combined 55 minutes. So did they have lunch together? So this new great invention, I call it that everybody is present now with everybody who is absent, in order to be absent with everybody who is present. Oh, maybe a Luddite is talking. Who's backwards? Oh my. Well, so the direct sensory exchange with nature. That nature that we see with our eyes directly and can identify. But we also constantly, continuously, this is CNN, this is the continuous natural news, not the constantly numbing nonsense. The two CNNs. So there is an attunement happening with our whole organism on every level, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And we have a tremendous receptivity towards cosmic vibration that connects us with the whole universe. Nikola Tesla, I'm sure you've heard of Tesla, but actually Nikola, I think, is really worth mentioning. He said, to understand nature, think of energy, frequencies, and vibrations. So we do have a natural, I would probably say it's about 89G. So we have a long way to go. And of course, it's very naive to think that as we move from 3G to 4G to 5G, that these frequencies that we are now sending out as an umbrella above the surface of the earth are not interfering with the natural cosmic connections that we, attunements that we receive. So, the Monteveritana, they wanted to feel life direct again. The natural movements of the body. You will hear more about that. Rudolf von Laban. There was a lot of increased desk sitting, having the body in the same position. The eyes seeing the world not reduced to staring at a screen. The ears listening to natural sounds, invigorating the senses. The Monteveritanos were resisting the onslaught of the age of replacement, the world of substitutes, the ersatz devices, taking over rapidly at the beginning of the 20th century and gaining still momentum over 100 years later in our times. They saw through that ever so new false premises of an apparently easier, safer life, which posed as guaranteeing solutions to problems hitherto seen as impossible by backward old way of thinking. They saw the huge long-term losses lurking behind the loudly proclaimed advances. They were not marching along with the naive, gullible masses which quickly forgot everything valuable, any value since the battle scream towards the modern version of technological progress was broadcasted by official and commercial media. They saw art descending into entertainment, the passive consumption of pleasing expectations instead of educating, cultivating, soul-nourishing masterpieces presented through art. They wanted to feel the dirt on their hands again, the growth and the harvesting of the food they ate. They saw the age of adulterated, chemical processed unfood production coming. It was that time when refined flour, refined sugar, industrial food production took over. They saw the dangers of a medical ideology which promoted and enforced the exclusive use of drugs and surgery, that outlawed natural healing approaches, homeopathy. Sometime read the works of Benedict Lust. Read about the Flexner Report, 1911. The modern way, with its magic words, quick, easy, effective, scientific, equals good, and its antonyms, which of course characterize everything bad, slow, difficult, mythic. E.F. Schumacher's book, Small is Beautiful, says, wait a minute, the slow food movement started in Italy. This fast food, that's not quality life. And old, useless, inferior, weak, ignorant, behind. Are you sure that these pseudo-sacred adjectives that we have put on the throne of everything that is good, the factual is superior to the mythic? Do you want the fact or do you want the myth? Well, there are truths contained in mythic, analogical, symbolic thinking that the factual, quantitative thinking has never and will never get near to discover. Now, this announced better life, that happy, fun-filled, prosperous, forever useful life, showed increasingly its dark sides. There was a clarion call with a book by Rachel Carson, Silent Spring.